pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome members and welcome guests. Hey, I'd like to introduce Judith Fox. To those of you who don't know her, she's going to give our invocation. No. No. I won't stand behind you as well. Well, then, a bit of honesty, I'll let you out there. Quiet. Honesty, I'll let you know that the way my talk came about today is from looking at In Touch magazine, which I enjoy a lot. It just has daily readings, and I don't really keep up day to day. I look ahead and behind and see what interests me at the moment. So this one that interested me was about conscience. Just let your conscience be your guide. Whatever you feel is the right thing to do, that's good. Just listen to your conscience. That'll take care of it. But can it really? A conscience can be a good compass, and it can keep us on the right track. But sometimes even a compass can go awry. I understand that if you put a magnet close enough to a compass, that it will pull it off of north. And so we know that we have to be careful about our compasses and what we rely on. We can actually, we can miss our standards sometimes. We need to have a good standard. What are we relying on? How do we decide what a good conscience would tell us to do? One of the things that pulls us off from doing the right thing is just plain fear. We might be afraid of what our neighbors will say, what our friends will say. So fear pulls us off, and sometimes we just are afraid because we don't trust Jesus enough. Remember the disciples in the boat that got scared when the storm came up. They were in a boat with Jesus himself, and yet they lost their focus. So we don't want to lose our focus. And how do we have that focus? Several good ways to do it, but mainly we stay close to Jesus. We do that through church attendance, through Bible study, through a prayer time. That's hard, I know, at home. Even if we get ourselves off into a room by ourselves to pray, our mind keeps going, this list, that list, gotta put this, don't forget that. So it's really hard to do. I struggle with that from quite a bit of the time. Stay focused. Where do we get our focus, our conscience to begin with? Usually it's from our parents, I think, and from our family. It's also from our friends. Sometimes it's from TV and what popular culture tells us to do nowadays. So we need to stay aware of what we're relying on. So when we hear the phrase, just let your conscience be your guide, remember that it could be pulling you in the wrong way if you don't get your conscience lined up with the way we should go. Also, we need to realize that our conscience can become jaded. I'm thinking mainly of kids. They do something wrong one time, get away with it, and then they'll do it again and again, and it sort of grows into something bigger and bigger. Their conscience sort of gets jaded because they get away with it. But even adults can become jaded as well. So we need to be aware of that. And our focus, again, is on Jesus, and that keeps our conscience guiding us in the right way. Let's have a prayer. Father, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for your Spirit who works with our conscience or in our conscience. So I believe is our conscience. Father, we thank you that you want to guide us and that you want to help us each day. Help us stay close to you. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Judith. That was very nice. Okay, we're going to start out first introducing, do we have any? I know we have guests that are going to speak about the school bond, but do we have any other visitors?
Yeah.
Okay, would you want to stand up and tell us your name?
On the spot.
Oh, we don't have to stand up.
Hello. Hello. My name is Jackie Mellor-Gwynn. I've been here quite some time. I work at Keller Williams with Cindy, and I was invited today by Kelly Collette and Cindy, and thank you so much.
Okay, and how do you spell your last name?
It's MELLOR-GUIN. I'm from Dallas, Texas.
I would have never guessed.
She's a Texan to die. All right. What we want to do is... Okay. That was funny. Let's introduce our guests that we have that are going to be speaking today. And we have the superintendent, Mr. Larry King, and then we have Sandy, I'm sorry, Sandy, can you say your last name again?
Vosberg.
Vosberg.
I'm not Sandy, but she's...
She wasn't paying attention, was she?
I was wondering if I was speaking.
Oh, I don't know. You're a guest, though.
I'm a guest.
You're a guest.
Yes.
And then we have Alyssa Heath, who is the student from the school, representing the students. And then we have Mr. Mike.
I'm Mike Fox.
Fox.
I'm a board member.
Okay, board member. And then I see one other person.
I'm Yolanda McCauley. I am Larry's assistant.
Okay,
And we're waiting for Lynn David. She should be here any minute.
okay.
I can start.
You want to start?
If you're ready, I'm
We're
happy
ready.
to. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
But watch out for the bee in the back. She's gonna, she might bite you.
Jordan Taylor and
Gay Robbins.
Jay Robbins.
And Joy the Wheel.
Joy, okay. I know the names, but
That's
I
okay.
base his name.
It's all good.
So thank you for having us here. I really appreciate it. It's just about my little over 1-year anniversary of being in Acton, AWC, and it's kind of flown by. So I think I shared with you just about a year ago that I was really happy to be in the school district, and I'm still happy to be in the school district. So it's been an absolute pleasure and some really tough work, but good work, I think. And we've got, I think, a lot accomplished in a year, which I can talk about some other time, just in terms of kind of the state of the district. So I was asked to come and talk about the bond today. And so I want to talk a little bit about it. I'll try not to take too much time. My thought was to present for maybe 10 to 15 minutes and then just turn it over to you for any questions that you may have. And again, I appreciate that we have a board member, Mike Fox, here this afternoon. Our board is busy. They have full-time jobs. Sometimes boards have retired folks, but we don't. And so I appreciate them making the time to come out to support our school district. And then our volunteers, again, Lee Jennings and Sandy Fosberg, are on the actual bond committee, which if you've ever been on a bond committee is a lot of work. And, you know, they keep coming to these things, so we'll have to double both your salaries.
Is that 2 zeros?
Appreciate it very much. And for any of you who've had any interaction with Yolanda McCauley, you know that she's my work wife and absolutely manages my life, probably more than my wife does at this point, and does an excellent job with that. And so appreciate everything you do. And so thank you for being here too. And Elisa, he was going to join me in just a little bit up here to share a few thoughts as well before the question and answer piece. And then when we get to the Q&A section, I'm going to ask our Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, Lynn David, to join me up here, who's made time during her audit. She's in the middle of a 3 or 4 day audit and business services going on right now, and so I appreciate her presence here as well. So we don't want to lose the witch's hat. Okay, so let me start with what I'm going to talk about. So the things I thought we'd cover are why a bond, right? Why do we need a bond, or why did staff recommend a bond to the board, to the school district? Number 2, talk about the project list a little bit, just in summary, in general, what we're going to be working on, what the funds would go towards. What would the bond cost for the average homeowner based on the assessed values of homes in Acton and AWC? Talk a little bit about that. And then just let you know, my job here is just to give you the facts. I'm not here to persuade. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to just share the facts of the district so that you have a better understanding about it and can clarify any questions or thoughts or comments that you may have. So in terms of why a bond, so the state of California, school districts receive funding in such a way that per student, you've heard of per pupil funding, or ADA, and we receive those funds at a rate of about $9,000 per student. So when you compare that to some of the other states, we are at the lower end of funding in our funding model. We're, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Lynn, I think we're like 46th in the nation or something like that, but we are near bottom of the funding models in terms of per pupil student funding.
There are only about 2 states that have a lower per pupil funding.
So only 2 states lower than us in terms of per pupil student funding. At the top of that same scale would be some of the states in the northeast part of the country, Vermont, Connecticut, New Hampshire. Some of those states receive funds to the tune of maybe $15,000 or $16,000 or $18,000 per student. And the reason I bring that up is because when we have bonds in California, that's with intent. So there's with intent that the government, state and federal government says, hey, because of your funding model, we don't expect all those monies to do some of the bigger projects when it comes to facilities. We're not expecting you to use that $9,000 per student for major remodernization, infrastructure, and those sorts of things. What we do have in our funding model in terms of facilities is 3 resources that we go to. And the first one would be our general fund. So our general fund would fund things that are very small. So Ms. David always makes the analogy when she's talking with cabinet and the board to our home. We're talking about home improvement. Your general fund is like your monthly budget. So if you're doing light bulb replacements or replacing a socket, it's things that that's where your general fund would come into play. And in our general fund, we have about $700,000. $330,000 goes towards the cost of personnel costs for our custodians, for our maintenance workers, and for our supervisors. So those also include health and welfare benefits and other statutory costs like retirement benefits. The other $370,000 goes towards supplies and contracted services. So if there's something that we can't do in-house that needs to be repaired, we may contract that work out. The next account, the second one, would be deferred maintenance, which we refer to as Fund 14. So deferred maintenance, again going back to the home improvement analogy, would be for slightly bigger projects. And in that account, we have about $325,000, but $150,000 of that is allocated for debt service. So we have $175,000 that's allocated for maintenance, things like replacing carpeting, doing a bigger paint job, asphalt repair, those sorts of things. So larger replace, repair projects, but not still quite the big modernization projects that we're talking about potentially doing. So the third fund that would cover that is a capital improvement resource, which we refer to as Fund 40. In that account, we have about $700,000. We took that $700,000, recommended to the board, and they agreed so that we could complete phase 3 at the high school just to cover the contingencies. So we didn't take that money to build the current girls softball field being built, and the concession stands and the restrooms, but we took that money because the board did a good job with the phase 3 money, and they were very fiscally conservative, so it left about $2 million plus to finish, to start phase 3, sorry. So they finished phase 1 and 2 at the high school facility, the gymnasium, but then they were able to start phase 3, which was the girls softball field and the concession stands and a walking track and restrooms and dugouts and bleachers and that sort of thing for the girls softball. Because there wasn't enough funding in there to cover the what-ifs, change orders, what if something goes wrong, contingencies, we took the $700,000 from Fund 40 and said, okay, let's put it towards that, and whatever's left, that's going to go towards Acton or other big projects that we need to complete, that Fund 40 piece. The issue is, and so this kind of gets into the project list a little bit, and why we're going out for a bond, is that to complete Acton Elementary School, so that our 4th and 5th graders to go there, to relieve the overcrowding at Meadowlark and High Desert, that will cost about $2.3 to $2.7 million. So the reason it costs so much is because you're talking about brand new asphalt. If you walk that campus, you'll see there's cracks in the asphalt, that sort of thing. The work that was started has a ways to go. If you walk in, you get some ceiling tiles hanging down where there's wires exposed. There's electrical work that needs to be completed. There's areas where there are sinks that used to be there that aren't there anymore, so plumbing work needs to be done. The multi-purpose room is being used at this point as a weight room by our football team. Aside from being kind of stinky, it needs to be completely refurbished and modernized into a cafeteria multi-purpose room for elementary school students. So we have a whole list for Acton School. That would be the district's first priority if the bond should pass. The second one would be AWC. So AWC is, even though iLead is the charter that's currently using that school site, we still own that piece of property. We want that property to last a long time. So when you're talking about bond monies, you're talking about things that should last 30 years, 25, 30 years and beyond, not smaller projects. So AWC has galvanized piping, it has roofs that need repair, so we're talking about those sorts of things. The very last priority would be the high school, because for the other 4 sites, we're talking about really the infrastructure of those sites, the building quality, the structural pieces that need to be there to have a solid place to send students to go to school, including electronic infrastructure for data and that sort of thing, so that our kids can be working with state-of-the-art equipment in the 21st century. So the last priority would be the high school. If funds allow for it, and we do anticipate that they would be to complete the high school phase 3, which would include tennis courts and lighting standards and basketball courts outdoors. The other piece I wanted to speak to is what it would mean for the community. So there's a couple things that it would mean for the community. And I'm just speaking as a homeowner. My girls went to school in Benini Unified School District, Laverne, San Dimas area. And my wife and I, we always supported bonds, A, for our kids that they were in school, but also we looked to the future for when our kids graduated, that we still want to support the schools and so on. But also we looked at our homes and the valuations and those sorts of things. And I would say that the same would hold true here. So when you look at home values here, the average, based on the county assessor's office, is $421,000 for a home. So that's not based on appraisals, but that's from the tax assessor's office. And if you have other data, I'm happy to hear it, but that's just my understanding based on the research that we did. Based on that number, the amount that the bond is funded at is $14.70 per $100,000. That comes out to $1.19 per week. So we took that $1.19, thank you Mike Fox, and broke that down even further into a per site allocation. And if we went per site, that would come out to 37 cents, 28 cents, 21 cents, 13 cents, and 20 cents, respectively, to Acton, Agua Dulce, Meadowlark, High Desert, and Vasquez High School. So that would be kind of the breakdown per dollar. The other piece that's really important is the state matching funds. So the reason that we went for $7.5 million and proposed that to the board was twofold. One is you can go up to a bond rate of $60 per $100,000, but we didn't do that because we really tried to look at the most crucial structural needs of the schools. That was one reason. The other reason is that there's $3 million sitting on the table that belongs to all of you in regards to state matching funds. So you've already paid into the tax base that covers those state matching funds, and so to maximize on the $3 million, the $7.5 million allows us to do that. And only 2 school sites qualify for that, and that's High Desert and Meadowlark. So High Desert would receive Meadowlark would receive $1.94 million, and High Desert would receive $1.21 million in state matching funds. So that's really important to our community, to the school district, to allow us to maximize funds that are there for us. So the last thing, I know there was a hand up here, but the last thing I want to do before just getting to your questions and thoughts and comments is I want to ask Alyssa to come up and just share a little bit in regards to her experience. Alyssa, for those who don't know, sits on our board. We always have a student representative that sits on the Board of Education. And so Alyssa is our current student rep, and she's doing a fine job of it. But she also has been a student here for a long time and can kind of speak to it from firsthand experience as to the benefits of a bond. So I'll let you take that over.
So, hi, I'm Alyssa. I've been in the school district since preschool. I went to Miss Sherry's I don't know, it's past Crown Valley, past McDonald's. Anyway, I've been here my entire life. I'm also part of Harmonic Ron's Handball Ensemble, directed by Larry Rowland, who's a 6th grade teacher at High Desert, if you've ever heard his name before.
He's our person in here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I've been a part of that for the past 7 years. And our practice room was at the old Acton School. We practiced there for the past 6 years, and this is the first year we have had to move to High Desert, where we have a classroom that has sinks. If the bond passes, or when the bond passes, we'll be able to repair our lovely classroom, and then maybe even we're in a kitchen classroom at High Desert, which before was meant to be used as a culinary arts room, but that program got moved to the high school, which the high school loves the culinary arts program. It's probably one of the most productive, most loved electives at Vasquez. And if we're able to move handbells back down to the old Acton School, then maybe High Desert can start up a culinary arts program in that kitchen classroom, so then kids can go in there and start that, so when they go to high school, they can continue the culinary arts and future their careers. And I think that'd be such a great thing if they had a culinary arts program in High Desert and whatnot. And yeah, that was my question. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hang on 1 second. You're right, please.
Did you say me?
Yes, yes.
Can you address the criteria and what happens with the site, not the site, but the, I can't think of the name of it. The
bond oversight.
Bond oversight.
Yeah, and you know what, I'm going to ask Ms. David to join me up here as well, just so she can help me out with some of the Q&A.
Before we get into the specific Q&A, maybe could I add?
Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, I took a day off of work, folks. So. but first, I appreciate what you ladies do. You're leaders in the community. You know, just like me, we all love our homes and our community. We lead in different ways. I used to do Boy Scouts in here for 7 years. I was the Cub Master for town, and then I was a Scout Master at the Scouts level, 11 years in total of service that way. Like you guys, before you adopted the stretch of Crown Valley, when my kids were much younger, I'm going back 15 years, my wife and I, we taught our kids to be good stewards of the community by picking up under the freeway bridge. Thank you all for doing that. Because you do that, one of the ways, just like you guys, I helped as I adopted, in the name of my church, Soledad Canyon Road between Crown Valley and Santiago Road, since you guys took the hard job. The last way I'm a community leader here, besides being school board, is I'm an elder at the Acton Community Presbyterian Church, and that's how I know, of course, of Judith Fox, no relation. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for generally your leadership in town. My child was a benefit of one of your scholarships. My child, Sam. I've got another one coming. Maybe she'll do it. But, and then, you know, one of the ways I can help is I'm an engineer. I'm kind of technically focused. I'm a manager, and so I applied those skills at the school board. And Larry gave you a very technical overview of the bond and funding sources and all this, but a simpler overview, maybe, you know, as a board member and a community member, is that, as Larry pointed out, the way California is structured, we run our schools day to day on the money we normally get from the state. Other states, even Texas, pay much higher taxes, so they don't have to ask permission to do these kind of remodel projects. They just have it built in. In California, we have to ask permission, and it's called a bond. And in total, it comes out the same place. We're still taxed less than everybody else around us. We've been very judicious in this community, but we have to ask that permission. And that's what the bond is doing. It's asking permission to do, effectively, a major remodel, to use Larry's analogy. Like when your home is 50 years old, you might take out a second mortgage or refinance, and you take that money and you put it back in the home, and it's to last another 50 years. And that's what we're doing here. All our projects will outlive the duration of the payments, of course, just like you would with a home remodel. And so that's really what we're doing here. And what Larry was pointing out, so he gave you an idea of the remodel projects. One of the main things of these remodel projects is, if it's not specifically part of the project, before the state allows us to do a specific part, like let's say improve communication infrastructure, the internet, put in new servers and all this so that kids can use the internet, because that's the way instruction is delivered. They'll say, well, you got to go back and you have to make your facility Americans with Disability Act compliant. Now, when they pass these laws, and we have schools that are old, Acton School and AWC School, when they pass these laws, they exempt and grandfather you, but only until you go make a remodel. And then they say, it's time. It's time to improve access. And so that's part of what these projects are, either directly or indirectly. At Acton School, we had to become ADA compliant, such that we could then, if this bond passes, move on. And so, as a church elder, one of the things you might see when you drive by the little white church, it's been there forever, is we felt it was the right time to make it so people with wheelchairs could get in. And we made our church ADA compliant, even though it wasn't legally required. At school it is. And so part of these projects is, you know, for grandparents to be able to get in to see their kids in some of the raised classrooms, for kids with disabilities to be easier to get in. And so this is part of those project lists, and they're mandated. And you know, you don't get to remodel the things you want without doing the things that maybe only satisfy a small fraction of the population, but it's an important small fraction. And so that's what we're asking for help with. And then when you say, okay, so what's it all mean for cost? We've structured this to be, it's a lot of bang for the buck. It's $10 million all across all campuses, all here in our community. We're asking for $1.20 a week. This I bought from per household. This is a McDonald's Coke. It's a prop. I bought it for $1.09 out of spare change. That's the kind of money we're talking about. 2.5 postage stamps per family per week. For that, the $3 million Larry says we'll get from the state is another 50 cents. So when was the last time you went to the post office, bought 2.5 stamps, and somebody gave you an extra stamp for free? That's what we're doing, though. And so when we designed this, we expressly designed it to make it the best return we could for taxpayers. You spend your 2.5 cents or 2.5 stamps a week at the post office gives you one for free. And that's what we're doing here. So I just wanted to put it in the context of cost. It's very, very, very low in the context of the kind of projects and the importance of ADA compliance as one subset. And as a leader of the community, and you guys as leaders, he's giving you the facts, they're going to give you the facts, I'm asking for your support. And I'm allowed to do that as a single board member and a leader here. Thank you.
My question was, what was the cost again? $14?
$14.70 per $100,000 is our bond rate.
And is that per year or is that 6 months?
Per year of assessed value.
Okay.
So when you go home, look at your assessed value. I know that at my home, my assessed value is different because I've owned my home for a number of years.
I do understand.
So,
How many years is that factored into pay? 10 years, 20 years, 30 years?
25 to 30 is what we're looking at. We did it on it. And I will actually share that we had a question come up at the Acton Town Council the other night. So I would share it out with you. We're going to share it back with them in writing because they had asked the question. The question came up of if there were funding that became available, they thought maybe through developer fees or something like that, could the bond be paid off early or paid down? The district actually did refund the current bond, CF, a number of years ago to decrease the tax rate, to the amount that could be done. We checked with our bond counsel, and yes, depending on how it were structured, if that was the community's desire to have that option in there, it would be written into the bond language when bonds were issued. So it is allowable if that's what the community would like. We're going to say when it passes, but when it passes, when we go out and work to have the bonds issued, they could be issued in a way that would allow for refunding or early payoff.
But the total source of the funds from property owners?
Yes.
can I add a little something? Sorry if I add, but I represent you guys. So as far as, I just want to make clear, it's based on assessed value, not market value. So don't go to Google and Zillow your home. That has nothing to do with it. It's based on assessed value. And in these, which is lower. In these two communities, assessed value, the median assessed value, meaning half the homes are above and half the homes are below, is $420,000. And that's what we're basing our math on, and that's the correct math. $420,000 comes out to $1.20 a week per family. If you go onto Google and you ask what the market value of a home here is, in Agua Dulce it's about $700,000, in Acton it's about $680,000 because we're a little farther from Los Angeles. But don't confuse market value with assessed value. And if you really want to know down to the penny, go pull out your taxes. I looked at mine, and it'll tell you what your assessed value is. And then if your assessed value is over $420,000, you can do the ratio and times by $1.20, and maybe it'll go up to $1.50 a week. Or you can go the other direction, and it'll get a little less. I know, some of you are on fixed incomes, maybe in mobile or mobile homes or manufactured homes. Those folks are going to pay even less. You will be hard-pressed to find some of the folks in the community who live in a mobile or manufactured house to have assessed values near $420,000. Think of Stallion Meadows, think of the Mobile Gem. Those folks will all pay a little bit less. And if you've been in your house a while and you're on a fixed income, you will pay less. So just don't get confused between what you think your house is worth and what you'll be paying, because that's part of the California system. That's why our taxes are lower than those other states, our property taxes. So assessed value, I have a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house, 2,400 square feet on 2.5 acres with a pool and horses. I'm not bragging here. It's got a beautiful view on paved street with all my utilities up above Middle High School. My assessed value is $420,000. That's why I said, for me, I'm right there. If that sounds like your house, you're probably right there too at a Coke. Any rate, so I just want you to realize that it's assessed value.
How long is this bond for? How many years?
It would be 25 or 30 years, the way it was calculated.
And the first bond will be up in 12 years? The first bond will be passed?
I would have to get back to you on that.
It sounds about right, 12, 15. I want to point out one other thing to make it a little clearer, if you don't mind.
Not at all, no.
What Larry was alluding to is, because I'm part of the board, we worked hard to stretch that bond. And that's where, in Larry's first part of the discussion, he said, we not only built phase 1, which is the main campus, we not only built phase 2, which was the gym, we had money left over, and we got 3/4 of the way through phase 3. The last on that list is to finish phase 3. And that we did because we were responsible with your money. One of the things we also did, because we're responsible with your money, it's mine, is just like when mortgage rates drop, you refinance. That's what Larry's referring to. We refinanced our debt, and we actually lowered taxes on everyone for that first bond. We will be just as careful with the next one, even if it's only $1.20 a week for you. And when opportunities arise, we'll refinance and we'll lower and shorten the duration, just as Larry was describing, as opportunities arise.
And if I could just piggyback on that, just to clarify, because I do like to compare it, and I think we're all doing that, comparing to what does it mean in our own homes, because that makes it pretty manageable for us. First of all, yeah, exactly what you talked about with we call it in school business refunding, but it's literally the same equivalent of refinancing your mortgage. If their interest rates go down, you do have the ability to do that, and again, it's something that's built into the structure of it when you go out with the bonds. The other thing that I do want to clarify, because I'm going to predict that there are some people asking in their minds, well, why didn't they take the $2 million that was left over from phase 1 and phase 2 and use it at Acton? The reason is because it could not be, because the money that was left over was state matching funds. When that school was built, part of it was from the bond, CF, and part of it was a state matching grant and what they call a hardship grant. It could only be used at Vasquez. If we did not design it to build capital improvements at Vasquez, it would return to the state and go into the pot of money that everybody else got to take. So that is what they did, is they asked for the architect to design a project for phase 3 that could use that money. Now, in the time between when they designed it and when it was actually out to bid, costs of construction, because the economy turned around a little bit, it cost a little bit more, which is why when we did go out to bid, there were 2 pieces of it, what you're seeing built, and I hope you all do get to take a look or look in the local papers. There's some pictures. It's not done yet, and it's in black and white, so it's not quite as exciting as when I get to look at it and see, wow, this is incredible. You guys probably see it up there and see the things rising, or if you look off the freeway when you drive by. It really is incredible. It's going to be beautiful. But there's a little, the cost rose a little bit. So the pieces that would be left to be done, they're already designed. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because what I've heard people say is, well, it took a long time for that project to get off the ground. It's already approved. For Vasquez, those plans are approved. We just need the money to finish out that piece of it, which is the tennis courts, the basketball courts, and the lighting for that piece of it. There will be lighting, but only on the softball field.
So question, so do you get the bond when it's voted in? Do you get it immediately for use, or is it stretched out over 30 years and rolled out annually?
Excellent,
And
excellent
is it
question.
like the high-speed rail, which started out at $3 and is now $85 billion?
No, it's a set amount, and the way that I imagine, it's ultimately up to the board to approve what's presented to them as financing options, but we believe we would ask for issuance of the entire $7.5 million, because right now the plans are already approved for that little piece of Vasquez that's left to do. The plans are at DSA, Department of the State Architect, for Acton. We're waiting right now for their, basically in the box, we're waiting for it to be our turn. And for that there are 2 phases, as Mr. Fox talked about. There's the part that is bringing compliance for ADA, and that's
It is what it is. We can't do anything about that. Plus, it's the right thing to do, but it's time. We can't say we don't want to do that part, we'll do it later. It's required. And the second part is actually bringing it up too, so it's as beautiful a campus as the others. Those plans are waiting to be approved, so as soon as the funds are issued, we anticipate a really good alignment of those coming out as approved plans with us being able to go out to bid. Then the next piece, because we will have the funds available because we anticipate issuing the entire $7.5 million and requesting the state grant money to go out and get the design done and the plans made for Agua Dulce, Meadowlark, and High Desert.
So just like buying a house, you use all the money up front and spend 30 years paying it back. Sort of.
Yeah, I mean
that's a better, to me, that's better than you get X number of diagrams a day.
Right. Plus the other thing is we can do the projects and get them.
Today's cost instead of tomorrow.
Exactly, because you know it does. Again, my job isn't to sell anybody, and I'm just presenting facts. But people have brought up the fact about there is research that home values are improved when we maintain our schools. We attract the right kind of people, and I'll share that. Lee Jennings was discussing with us the fact that up and down the hill we do have a lot of developing going on, and some of the schools are building. If you're up or down the hill and you see schools being built. I actually worked in the district down the hill, so I know quite a bit about how they're financing that. It's through mellow roost fees and developer fees. And so yes, our community, if we had all those developers come in, our developer fees are average between $20,000 and $50,000 a year. That's all we get that we can put in capital improvements. That's going to be a lot of years before we can do anything significant. If we had big developments coming in, we'd have money rolling in, $17 million. We had agreements that said, you come here, you build us a school. And she brought up the fact, she says, that's not why, we don't even want that in this community, most of us. We're happy living where we are. So I had never really thought about that before because I was thinking, oh, how great if we had that. It's not great.
Mellow Roof's really impacting the value of that land road. It's very hard for that business pays another $7,000 a year on top of their property taxes and mortgage payments, and so the values have not gone up. That's what happens to something that's overtaxed.
Right. So we're able to maintain our schools. Yeah.
Okay.
I want to be respectful of your time.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
and I know there's a couple of hands up, so tell us where we're at.
We're just about ready.
Okay.
So is anybody else?
Thank you very much.
Well,
Yeah, okay, thank you so much for coming.
If any of you ever have any more questions, Sandy knows how to reach me, Judith knows how to reach me, you know. I live down the street. Please reach out for me. Whatever decision you make, please base it on facts.
And also, we have a Facebook page that Sandy put up for us, and she posts on it all the time. We have all this information on it. It's Friends of Acton Agua Dulce Schools. So you can go in there and look at, we also have an informational handout over here on the table that you can grab, but there's a lot more information on the Facebook page that you can get to look up and ask any one of us other questions. Thank you.
All right, while Alyssa is here, I was gonna explain this a little bit later on, so I'm just gonna have her do it now. She called me about a week and a half ago and asked if any of our members would like to volunteer to participate in a function that you go ahead and explain.
Okay. So Vasquez Yearbook is hosting a color run this year at Vasquez to try and raise funds, so we're able to even produce yearbooks at Vasquez this year. So I called Gay asking for volunteers to help stand along the course with a group of students and just supervise them and throw colors. Runners go along the course. If you guys want to set up a booth and have a bake sale or something, you guys totally are able to do that. And have people be at our check-in booth where you'll highlight their name and give them whatever t-shirt size they have.
What's the date?
October 27th. So that's a Saturday. It's the Saturday after the fall carnival.
Okay, so look, I'll pass the sheet around and and if we get some volunteers.
Yeah.
I'll-
Yeah,
Will
that'd
that
be great.
That'd be great.
So, setup is at 7, but if you're just checking people in, just check-ins at 8 a.m. and then the run starts at 9 a.m. And then the course is a 2-hour time limit, so runners wouldn't be able to go on the course after 11 o'clock. So if you're standing along the course, they'll probably, it's probably not even going to go 2 hours. Probably the longest if people are walking it. It takes about an hour and 8 minutes we timed it. So that'd be the longest. And we'll have chairs along the course, and we're working on getting easy ups at the color stations where people are throwing colors. So it'll be great.
What's the name of your last name?
H-E-E-D.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, it's for a yearbook. I'm the head editor-in-chief of yearbook.
Oh my gosh.
Working on it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to have approve the minutes and do a treasurer's report really quick.
Okay. The meeting was called to order by New President Gay at 11:13 a.m. White salute and invocation by Judith Fox. The luncheon was hosted by club officers. Gay welcomed everyone back after summer recess and opened the meeting, and new members were introduced. New visitors were introduced. That was it, correct? Visitors were introduced.
Victoria, can you understand or project a little bit further? I'm hard to hear.
Do you really want to hear this?
If we're at the meeting, then yes, I want to hear.
They noted the sign-up sheets for everyone to have their names for functions and the raffle baskets passed. June minutes were read and approved by motion by Vicky Taylor, seconded by Kathleen Larson. Motion was approved. It was discussed that we use the phrase opportunity drawing so that it would not be a taxable event. We are averaging $109 a meeting in funds from our raffle. Discussion about bank charges, which are for cash deposits only, was discussed, and a motion was made to accept the budget by Kathleen and seconded by Joyce. Suggestion was made by Victoria to have us bring a can of dog food for the food pantry for pets. So people have pets and they need food for the dogs as well. Adopt a highway was discussed, but Barbara was not in attendance to concur and set the dates. She's here now. Okay. Fall luncheon will be in November and rummage sale will be on October 12th, 13th, Friday a.m. on, and to bring or drop off stuff for the sale. Sandy suggested we add the church to our annual budget. Discussion to follow the motion was made, correct? I don't believe the motion was made on that. Our November luncheon was discussed and they noted the board had unanimously voted, everybody's on with us, okay, to honor Elizabeth Billett for our special recognition award. A motion was made by Kathleen and seconded by Jane, and the motion was approved. And she's not to be told that. What? No, those lips.
Oh, she knows.
She knows. Okay, never mind.
Well, she knows now.
Sandy asked us about Acton Women's Club, hosting the school board candidate forum. The meeting is set to be in October, and the club will take written questions and set the rules for the debate. A motion was made by Joanne and seconded by Kathleen. The motion was approved. A motion was made by Joy to donate $400 from the raffle funds to Cherish. Yolanda seconded it. The motion was approved. The request came from Cherish, not from Joy. Drawing was done for the raffle, and the following people won: Joanne, Joyce, Yolanda, Kathleen, Tina, Charlene, and Vicki. It was noted that Shauna is in hospice. Joanne spoke about Holly and Rose Tea at St. Paul's. Mention was made about the book sale at the library by Friends of the Acton Library, Acton AWC Library. A motion was made to adjourn the meeting by Mary Sue and seconded by Tina. The meeting was adjourned at 12:30. All right. Any other question? Any other corrections?
Yeah, I wonder that. I didn't.
Sandy.
I think that when, in the minutes, because that's our official record, it should say why we gave that donation to Cherish. It was for a specific person as opposed to the overall organization, if I'm recalling it correctly.
It was for a scholarship. It was toward the scholarship.
So she thinks it should be noted.
Whatever it was for, I think it should be noted. That's what I.
Very good.
So corrected. I have a motion to accept the minutes as corrected?
Did you say that I followed around? It doesn't matter, but.
You weren't even here, were you?
Yeah, she was here.
Why put you in? Never mind, I'll just scratch it off.
Okay, just scratch it. Okay, do we have a motion on the floor to accept the minutes as corrected?
I move that we accept them.
I'll second it.
Okay. Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Okay, treasurer's report.
Treasurer's report. Well, first of all,
Do it really fast.
I'm trying to go really fast. Okay, we have our last request for scholarship money.
Okay.
That I'm sending out today. We also got a lovely letter. It's too long to read. I was going to read it to you from the dog rescue. It's from Rhett and Knox. I'll put it over there. You can read it if you'd like. It's really a nice letter. Anyway, treasurer's report. We are we started it with $13,932.19. We dispersed $2,000 2020. We have receipts of $653. Most of it was dues, but we didn't get that many dues last month, so ladies. And with the reserves of $9,397, we have an available balance, available funds of $31.88. So that's it.
Do I need to have this approved? Okay. All right. So we're going to go on to Tina. She's going to talk about the rummage sale.
Our rummage sale is coming together pretty good. We're getting a lot of calls. Anyone that is helping out that day, could you raise your hand that you need an orange shirt? Because I'm going to get some orange shirts. Raise your hand if you're a small.
Are they going to be printed?
These are people that are going to work the rummage sale.
What if we have one?
Yes, it's going to be like what she's wearing back here.
But raise your hand, we already have one.
Right, if you have one, then don't raise your hand. So if you're working that day, raise your hand if you need a small. Raise your hand. We like our ladies to wear their shirts. So 2. How many mediums? 1 medium. 2. How many larges? 1, 2, 2. Okay. How many extra large? Loads of furniture. That's great. So pass the word on. The calls I've been getting, just about all of them will bring their stuff on Friday, so that's good. I have a couple of people that are going to reach out to other homes and pick up their stuff. So we're looking pretty good.
Okay, and what time are we starting on Friday?
I would like everyone to be there sharp at 8 o'clock in the morning. We have to hustle on Friday because we start selling at 12 o'clock noon. This will be our first time where we've opened it up to selling on a Friday openly. And then on Saturday, again, 7 o'clock a.m. sharp, because we start at 7:30. And then I have 2 times, it'll be in the back there. But thank you, just pass the word on. We're looking pretty good, and pray it doesn't rain. Yes?
Tina, when can we bring stuff down?
Anytime, I would say after 10, because we need that time to get the tarp set up.
After 10 on
Friday, yeah. There'll be a few people there at 8 o'clock with their stuff, but it's only because they're part of our group and they're helping us, so.
Set up.
Yeah, to set up the tarps. We got to get our tarps out before we can put anything on our tarps. And we need help in the boutique area because that takes a lot of effort to get those, awnings up and everything. So pass the word on. Is there a Holly here? A Holly called me.
Okay. She was one of the new gals that came last time.
She wants to help.
Okay. Our committee met under executive session, and we have
The date has been selected, obviously. That's October 22nd. It's a Monday night from 7 to 9 here at the Acton Community Center. The Women's Club is hosting it. We have flyers out and posters and things, and it's also in the paper. So all of you, I'm sure, will want to be coming because you want to hear the candidates. This will be your the best time, I think, to hear them, because this is the only time when they're all together that I'm aware of. We will have questions from the audience. There will be a table at the back so that there will be written questions taken from the audience and throughout the evening to ask candidates. But to begin the program, each candidate will have a certain amount of time to give a statement. Then there will be questions from the floor, or not from the floor, but from the floor through the moderator. And at the end, they will give a summation.